When they're going to fit in a meeting on
UAE
and on DPRK.
Yeah, I'll probably do it as
AOBs.
AOBs.
AOBs on Thursday. They can't do it tomorrow, I don't think, with the Middle East debate.
Is it one of the big debates?
I think it's a debate.
So it'll have to be Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, they've got stuff on Thursday. They've got nothing on Friday, but we've got stuff on Friday. We've got the SG on Friday.
We have what?
The SG on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, quite busy. Nothing like it's going to get if there's an invasion of Ukraine now.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I don't know what we're waiting for. This guy's not in Tonga.
Tonga.
He's in Fiji.
I know.
In Suva.
So what's the
You
problem?
can pop on a Zoom at any time. We're quite late there. Pretty early, I think.
Hi, we're just about to start. Sorry for the delay. We had some issues with the connection there.
When?
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah, he's just connecting. Sorry about that. I apologize.
May I test with Jonathan, please? Jonathan Vetch, please.
Oh,
Yes, hi. Can you open your camera so I can test your audio and video?
can you see me okay?
Yes, very good. Thank you very much. And your audio is brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you
You're
very
ready.
much.
On the ground in Tonga. Mr. Vich, welcome. Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you.
Thank you very much. You have the floor. Please go ahead.
Again, your mic wasn't on. Just start all over again.
Okay, I'm
Good
sorry.
morning from Fiji, colleagues.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm Jonathan Beach. Apologies if I was slightly late. I'm the resident coordinator ad interim based in Fiji, and I'm accredited to Fiji, the Solomon Islands, Tonga, Tuvalu, and Vanuatu, and I'm also head of the UNICEF Pacific office in the Pacific, based out of Fiji. The regular resident coordinator is coming back from leave. First off, I'd like to clarify just quickly that that all UN staff in Tonga are accounted for and are safe. The UN has 1 international staff and 22 national staff across 8 entities based in Tonga. And we're stepping up our efforts now to coordinate the response to the tsunami, to the events of the last few days. And I'll give you a little bit of a briefing on this. I'm pleased to report, and you probably will have seen that last night, the government managed to release their first official update following the eruption. In the update, it confirms that initial damage assessment has begun, and these are managed by the National Emergency Management Committee, which we're coordinating with very closely, who are meeting on a daily basis to discuss and approve the response operations and planning. It does confirm, as you will already have known, and the difficulties that we've all been facing, that communications, both national and international, have been severed due to damage sustained by the submarine cables. The internet remains down as of this morning, and only as of yesterday, some slight communication was established with some of the outer islands through satellite phones and HF radios. The government has managed to dispatch a couple of search and rescue operations that began on Sunday morning. And unfortunately, there do remain a number of injuries reported post-tsunami. There's a health team that has been sent now out to Hapai because of the destruction of the health facilities there. So with materials and support from the UN, WHO is there on the ground and supporting it. A health team is in Hapai now and setting up a kind of temporary clinic to see how to support. So the health team is there, and they have some relief items, including water, food, and tents. And yesterday, another ship was sent to a second island with additional resources. Sadly, as you will have seen, perhaps on satellite images, it seems that all houses were destroyed on Mango Island, and we have to count exactly how many that is and exactly what the population was that's been displaced and evacuated. And only 2 houses remain on Fonuifa Island. And there is also extensive damage recorded on Namuka Island. The evacuation process has also begun, and the government is supporting that from Atata to Tongatapu to the main island, and from Mango Island, as I mentioned. So challenges remain due to the damage sustained by the ash. and the heavy amount of ash that's been falling, all domestic and international flights have been deferred until further notice. The clearing up operation continues and has made quite good progress in the airport, but is still not sufficient to be able to land aircraft. Our priorities remain to establish communication, immediate shelter needs, and supporting access to safe water. In Tonga Tapu itself, on the main island, the government reported that 100 houses were damaged and 50 destroyed. You will also have heard of the deaths of two national, one international, one other national yesterday, and now, unfortunately, a third national has been reported to have been killed as well. Most people are staying, who've been evacuated from their homes, are staying with families, with extended families, except on the island of Ewa, where around 90 people are in evacuation centers there. Communication is a real key, and with looking at how we can continue to improve that, we got slightly better comms yesterday. I'm able to send basic messages by SMS now to our colleagues through satellite systems, and we hope very soon that comms will be back up and running. Support from neighboring donors in particular has been very rapid and swift, particularly Australia and New Zealand. They've been really helpful and quick, and both are deploying their defense ships, HMAS Adelaide and the Aotearoa and Wellington from New Zealand to provide immediate relief and urgent equipment. And the good thing is that those ships not only have a lot of supplies on them, and they carry also a lot of our water and sanitation supplies that I'm pleased to say were picked up in Brisbane yesterday, but they have the ability to provide clean water. Desalination plants on the ships. They can clean water from the sea, and they're also carrying a lot of potable water as well. So it's still early days. It's been a very challenging time because of the poor communication system that we have with Tonga. We hope that once it gets up and running, we'll be able to find out a lot more. The team are working non-stop with the government to try and assess, and I think we'll get a lot more details today. The government are still not in a position to release their accurate needs, but we're basically doing sending supplies there, knowing what is probably required in terms of water and sanitation, shelter, and other supplies too. And luckily, we have those assets from the New Zealand and Australian governments that enable that. And then they've also got aircraft that are ready to take off, and those will leave as soon as the airport is completely cleared. So I think I'll stop there and open up for any comments or questions.
Thank you very much. Edie, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Veach. Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. On behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association, thank you very much for doing this briefing. First, is there any indication of how long more it will take to get the airport open? Because I assume once it's open, the UN will be sending in more people, supplies, etc. And secondly, you mentioned the names of a lot of islands that none of us are very familiar with. Could you spell the names of the islands that you mentioned? You started out with something that sounded like Hakai, and then there was Mango and something else, and then there was another island that I think began with an A.
Yes. Thank you for your questions. Indeed, the clear up operation, one of the priorities was the airport, obviously, but the ash has proven more difficult to clear than was expected. We thought that it would be operational yesterday, but it hasn't been fully cleared yet because more ash has been falling. And so they clear about 100 or 200 meters per day, I gather, which means they should get there today. I don't know if it'll be fully operational today. I know that the Australians are sending equipment that can kind of water blast the runways to make sure that it's cleaned very quickly. But that equipment is in the ship, so the ship will take 6 to 8 days. So that can't be used. That can be used longer term, but it can't be used immediately. So the clear up operation continues in the airport, and we hope that we can land there very soon. I want to be clear on one thing, that we believe that we will be able to send flights with supplies. We're not sure that we can send flights with personnel. And the reason for this is that Tonga has a very strict COVID-free policy. They're one of the few countries in the world that's remained COVID-free. They've done a great job in terms of immunization. They have very high vaccination rates that we've been supporting over the last 2 years through COVAX and other means. And they have 90% coverage now, both in adults and also younger people, not the youngest, not kids, but over the age of 12. So they've got very good coverage, but they've been very cautious about opening their borders, like many Pacific islands are, because of the history of disease outbreaks in the Pacific, which have wiped out societies here. They do have very strict protocols, much stricter than other countries in terms of opening their borders to a large extent, apart from Fiji, which took a different approach. So that discussion with opening the border to people is something that we need to have, and that WHO will initiate with the government in a cautious manner, but we won't be doing anything to threaten the safety of their protocols and the safety of their population in terms of the COVID, because that would cause us a lot more difficulties, in fact, than we already have. So we may need to do the operation very much remotely through the government and through local organizations, which is fine. And we have 23 people on the ground who can do this and run this operation for us, plus many international and local NGOs. So I think we're in a good position there. In terms of the islands, I mean, I think that it would take me a long time to spell them all out. If you don't mind, perhaps the UN office there could issue the list of the islands to you that has been issued by the government, and then you can get the spelling from that.
Yes, we can do it after the briefing. Thank you.
Thank
James,
you. That would be great.
James, please.
James Bays from Al Jazeera. Thank you for doing this. Can I first check the list of islands that you're going to mention, all the outlying islands? Are you now sure that everywhere has been searched and checked, or is there anywhere from which is inhabited where you don't have information, where you're still unsure what the casualty figures might be? And secondly, on water, what is the situation with regard to freshwater supplies currently on Tonga, on the main island and elsewhere, and how much of a priority is that?
So first of all, I cannot confirm that every settlement has been assessed. The government was only able to get out yesterday and the day before to some of the islands, sent out a Tongan Navy ship to a Navy vessel to look at the situation on the outer islands. And there's more than 100 islands in Tonga. Not all of them are inhabited, but I don't think that I would be able to say that we can confirm that nobody else has been affected. If you saw the government statement, they kind of made it clear that they haven't got to some of the further islands yet, but those islands may be sufficiently far away from the tsunami anyway, not to have been affected too badly. So we can't fully confirm that there won't be further damage, there won't be further reports of casualties. But at least the ones that they were most worried about, which I mentioned, Mango and Fanoi, they have been visited, and we know that there's been quite heavy devastation. In terms of water, reports, well, first of all, groundwater sources are okay, and they're fine, generally speaking. Not everybody has pumps to be able to use groundwater sources, so they may need to go to a health facility or a school or something like that to get, or a neighbor to get their water. But because they use rainwater sources normally. So we are concerned about the water situation. I haven't heard that people have run out of water, which would be obviously an emergency situation. Of course, we have heard that shops are running out of food, and also there's been quite a lot of kind of mass purchasing, as always happens in these circumstances, including of water and of food supplies too. So the sooner the regular market movement can start, and we can get ships going back into the ports to deliver all of the supplies that they regularly do from New Zealand, Australia, and elsewhere, and the market system starts functioning again in terms of delivery of vegetables and so on to markets, the better. So it is urgent, and we do need. There is a desalination plant in Tonga, in the capital, and that's being checked now to make sure that it's functioning and all is well. And I'll have further information on the absolute extent of water shortages very soon.
Thank you very much. Any other questions online? If you have, Edie, one more question.
Yeah, one more question. Thank you. What's the status of the port, and is it viable for ships to dock?
We understand it is viable for ships to dock. I haven't heard that there is damage along the coastline, and there is damage of the port and so on, but it's not sufficient to prevent ships from docking there. So I suspect that both the Australian Navy and the New Zealand Navy will be able to dock their ships in the coming days when they arrive. The New Zealand ships are already on the way, and the very large HMAS Adelaide is going to complete its filling of all the supplies and so on today, and I believe set sail tomorrow.
Thank you very much. I think that's it. We don't have any more questions. Mr. Veitch, thank you very much for your time and for making this briefing so early in the morning in Fiji. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you for having me.